All right, good evening, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital, nightly strategy podcast for December 15th, 2021. So today I was at the Quantum Storytelling Conference virtually out of New Mexico with my doctoral mentor, David Boji. Actually, you might find this to be interesting. Why do I work with David Boji? Well, there was some research presented there today by a master's student in Dubai. And she was examining over the last 30 years the state of the literature about storytelling in business and management from 91. David Boji is the pioneer in this area in the world beyond any reasonable shadow of a doubt. He's got 20 published articles from his time at New Mexico State. There's been a recent resurgence here. These two things is, current time is 2021. So he is the leading scholar in the field. You can argue that he established the field with his original papers. These two, his foundational articles in 91 and 95, crush the competition with respect to influence in the field. Not only is he the most prolific, but he is also by far the most influential. And the early days, you can see that it's organizational change. A lot of this work he's done here in office supply firms and Disney have direct payoff to the work that we do. And the most interesting part of all this is the idea that the first 10 years about storytelling and narrative have to do with organizational change and organizational storytelling, how humans make sense inside of their organizations through the use of story. The explosion of the last 2 or 3 years, however, has shifted to a tactical implementation of storytelling as it appears as brand management in social media. So there's actually been a move afoot to co-opt storytelling and narrative inquiry for the purpose of selling product. So it's a sort of a manipulative approach. Whereas the original theory of storytelling and the analysis of it was to understand how stories are used in the construction of organizations and sense making. Now it's becoming co-opted by marketers and advertising. So you got to be very careful with what you read about stories and their purposes and how to use them. In the same way that, linguistic analysis and persuasion in the rhetoric was originally designed to be how to express your philosophical ideas correctly with truth content, has become perverted into rhetoric for persuading the masses for the purpose of getting power and money. So that's actually an ethical concern. Yeah, there's some ontology out there. That's what Boji's work goes into. His technical scholarly work goes into categorizing types of stories and the tools that are used to shape meaning and persuade the masses, and can be co-opted by people in power to manipulate. So he's got a extensive work on the application of storytelling tools and the different modes, like the connection between narrative as a sense-making tool and storytelling as a carrier of truth and reporting on experience. Narrative has other purposes. It's stylized or simplified stories that it's more important on the purpose of it rather than being an end in itself as an effort to describe what happened in the world. That's story from a personal point of view, has truth content. Narrative is being seen now as a manipulative approach to packaging and communicating for other purposes, for purposes other than truth. And that's what a lot of his work goes into, is how that is coming about and the tools that are being used, both scrupulously and unscrupulously. So Boji is an interesting guy to work with, and I'm a postdoc researcher for him, and I work with him every week. And I'm associated with the True Storytelling Institute for that reason, because of his ethical use of these narrative and story making tools. Anyway, I just thought you guys get a kick out of that. So the paper that I briefed and the presentation that I made had to do with a lot of the lessons that we've learned through the era of COVID. And you see a lot of that now in the way we're doing our coaching sessions and the nightly podcast and some of our working groups. We're explicitly using storytelling at the individual level to create high-performing teams, so that we can essentially, you've seen me write on this with respect to trading, that the secret sauce is not secret, only rare, and that the ingredients are true storytelling as an individual truth operation, deep listening to listen carefully to what's being said without judgment, advice, processing until you fully and deeply listen to the entire story and let it filter through multiple iterations, and then leading to accountable action as a result of analyzing those stories and what they mean. And so when we are doing our group work, we're explicitly using these 4 values of the true storytelling circle, which begins with creating a place of safety, then generating earned trust, which allows truth to emerge inside that safe, trusted space. And then and only then do genuine opportunities arise because of the foundations of safety, trust, and truth. And the point we make, the business case for doing this, is that imagine how much energy you spend right now in the world trying to detect what someone's real motives are, what their ulterior motives are. How are they out to try to get you, whether it's marketing or scams or persuasion or rhetoric, influence operations, we call that in the military, where we look at how to gain and maintain an information advantage through the use of psychological operations and so forth. So there's a lot of energy and effort that goes into, in the world, separating truth from falsehood, deception from ground truth, validating sources, determining truth content, deciding how much confidence and trust to place into someone as a consequence of the context that you're in. Can they be trusted? How far, and when, how much money's on the line? So there's a lot of effort that's spent on that, and there's very little left over for genuine research and creating new value, because so much of the effort has to do with separating fact from fiction in the world. Well, imagine what happens if you have a trusted group, a mastermind that's built explicitly on the principles of safety, trust, truth, and all of the energy then gets into identifying and then exploiting opportunities. Well, that's very much like trading is concerned. We're looking at price action on a chart and trying to determine what's going on. How can we establish safe frames with patterns that we can trust, and then implementing systems that are both safe and trustworthy. Paying for quality data in order to establish the truth of the price action. And then that leads to framed opportunities. Well, that's what we're saying with the power of the mastermind. And when you look at the collaborations in the most recent research weekend and the research group, it starts with safety, trust, and truth are already established. And now you can really build on that with all your energy. That's amazing. I even talked to them about our thoughts on plan, prepare, execute, and assess as a recipe for doing trading that is unplanned and well prepared. So what we do with the plan is not decide which way we think it's going to go, but examining which way it could go, both of them, or sideways. And then what the key preparation is identifying areas where we can make decisions with favorable reward to risk. And that's what we mean by being prepared, that you're ready to go in either direction. When you listen to the way we frame the trades on the weekend for the week ahead, what you'll see us doing is examining multiple time frames, key price levels, looking at trade opportunities in both directions. That's why the word prepare is so large and capitalized, because in the plan versus prepare, it's clearly preparing. If you're well prepared, you can then be mindful to what price is actually doing. And then execution is simply following the rules because you are well prepared. And then that leads to the assessment, which allows you to see what's going on. So a way to action this, to operationalize it, is to be unplanned and well prepared so that you can do your best and then assess what happens and then adjust your specific rules for your patterns and frames based on evidence. And then we talked also about how to change the world, change your habits, if you want to look at that as the rule, that you need purpose times action times artifacts in order to offset the things that maintain the status quo, the inertia, the culture, and the reward system of the status quo itself. And that you need leadership with skin in the game to make the difference, to tip the scales towards transformational behavior. And by that, we mean you got to put skin in the game so that you have personal and professional consequences if the initiative doesn't work, in order to ensure that you're doing your best and that you bring all the resources to bear, to the point where my expectation is that leaders in organizations do not have skin in the game. Change my mind. So I start with the presumption that they're talking the talk, but not walking it, that they're engaged in influence operations for whatever reasons. I just want to see, I don't assume that they have skin in the game until I see clear evidence that they have skin in the game. So you might ask yourself, as you're looking to acquire new skills as a trader, where is your skin in the game? Why can you rely on your insights and your efforts and your intentions if you don't have skin in the game? You're just dabbling. You're not really committed. When you're building your team out, do they have skin in the game? Is this something that we're going to commit to and then use every means at our disposal that's ethical to achieve success? So that was the subject of my paper. That's the subject of the chapter uh, in their practitioner's handbook that I wrote. I contributed some tools along these lines, and it was really quite an interesting exercise, quite an interesting event. Day 2 happens tomorrow. For Ken H's, I'm also doing the protreptic coaching with Jens Larson. He's in that same conference, and we're going to do session 4 tomorrow. Tomorrow, we're looking at the question of how do leaders in an organization set the conditions to create purpose, vision, and culture. Purpose, vision, and culture. Because we want purposeful action, as you can already see. We want a vision of what that end state looks like, so we know what it is we are taking action towards. A vision is an operationalized purpose. It gives enough information to say that's what right looks like. That's how we know we're going to succeed, because the reality looks like our vision. We're trying to make that act as a giant magnet. And then the last one is culture. Culture is those habits of mind and standard practices that affect how we do everything, from the most mundane task all the way to the grandest decision and process. Culture influences all of that. It's the water that fish swim in. They're not even aware of it normally. So we've got to really look at culture through a critical lens to see what's going on, and what are our lived values, not just our espoused values. There was some discussion today about, well, we're trying to create our authentic self. I'm not trying to create an authentic self. I will stipulate that my authentic self is what I actually do, not what I say, not what I aspire to, none of that, but what I actually commit to and do, which generates evidence, which can then be judged and analyzed. So I'm not of the opinion that we should spend a lot of time trying to define some kind of ideal inner state there, who we really are. No, really, I really am this kind of a person. I'm not the person you see. I'm really trying to do this on the inside. Who are you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? So I believe that the energy of the authentic self ought to be put into action in the world, and let your actions speak, and let your identity be developed by the accumulation of all the actions and the results that you're achieving. That, to me, is your authentic self. It's what you commit to. It's what you have skin in the game about. Those are the things that you act on. Those are your enacted values, your lived values. That's what I think is your authentic self, not some idealized state that you're hoping to become someday. You can sure find. Your authentic self is who you are based on what you do. And that's why I think Luke and Ken H have been exceptional these last 2 years, is because they are authentically getting after it. They're getting it done. They're doing the things that it takes to be a trader. They aren't creating some kind of mindset that says, I'm an authentic trader in my head. Knowledge of the head. They are enacting a trader's identity in the way they are using their hands and their feet, the knowledge of the hands and knowledge of the feet, to get all that stuff aligned with what they're doing. Anyway, that's what I was doing today. Day 2 tomorrow. And I'm working with the guy, David Bochi, who is the world's most important scholar in this area. So that'll make you do your best. All right, let's take a look at the market health check today. So yesterday, we said was a red day because price broke down out of this yellow zone and collapsed, although it did recover to the middle of the dragon. But we said that was a retracement towards the previous cluster of price. But because it had some doji-like qualities, in that the open and the close were so close, that we bracketed that with a hybrid frog frame, and saying we were expecting a big directional move today. We actually got two of them. There was a breakdown immediately, then a turning point that came back through the open, and then crushed it in the afternoon to take it all the way to the previous high, 10-day high, at a key price level, where now I'm placing another critical state indicator because we're so close to breaking out of the river. Now we're at Z+1 and ready to go to Z+2. And along the way, we're going to take out the all-time high at 473.59-ish. And that's en route to a Z3. So that's now, if it doesn't break out, but it starts to reverse, now we're looking at a 50% retracement back to the middle of today's range, which is the top of the dragon, and then a break to the Bollinger Band mean, and then the bottom of the dragon. That's the 2.5% price level. And then if it breaks below this little swing low, then you can see that gets to the PSAR pretty fast. So that's why tomorrow is a really nice critical state, ready for fireworks. Today was fireworks on Fed Day. Tomorrow's a follow-through day. The upside would be the least surprising follow-through. Therefore, the most painful follow-through would be a rejection of that afternoon rally, and then early morning crushing all of the hopes and dreams of people that have tight stops. So it would not surprise me to see a sell-off quickly to the edge of the dragon, followed by a recovery or a big fail. So that is, either one of those is, that early morning sell-off looks to me to be the least surprising. And then I am thinking tomorrow, I'm going to be well prepared for a move to the upside, which means I'll also be well prepared to a move to the downside, because that's what being unplanned but well prepared means. You guys should listen to the first 15 or 20 minutes of this one tonight multiple times. That's pretty good stuff, I think. Never really said it exactly that way before, but that, I think, captures some important discussion points. Let me know in chat what you think. All right, let's look at today's sector status. Again, we're trying to figure out what happened, not why we thought it happened, but just let's start with the evidence that's there. Right. All right. So the S&P was up 1.56. The Russell up 1.59, and the Q's up 2.28. So it's the U.S. equities and the speculative ones, tech and small caps. And then the big fat Dow is also pretty good, but not quite as good as the S&P, up 1%. Emerging markets continuing to lag, and treasuries gave back 1% to close a fraction underneath 150. And that's a vote to the upside, a vote away from defense and a vote to the upside. And that was enough to move treasuries into the fall on a daily. All right, let's see what worked today. The FANGs, ARC Innovation, so that's a tech play. S&P Tech, that's old school tech like Apple and Microsoft. Blockchain futures, blockchain, moonshots, large cap blended crypto, biotech, ARC Genomics, and Ethereum, 8%, 7.5%. But we're mindful that these are all in the bottom of a large sell-offs. So let's just be aware of that. Whereas you like to see Apple excelling today, and then also on a monthly monthly summer and a daily summer. That's the least controversial play of all. Those qualities right there. Reinforced by strong sector movement in tech of both types. And there's his running buddy, Microsoft. You could do a lot worse than those two. Individual company targets. PayPal, 2%, Robinhood, Microsoft, Tesla, Squarespace. All the usual suspects, all tech heavy. Pretty narrow set of leadership there, but heavy volume pulling the index higher. Let's look at the underperformers. Clean energy, oil, consumer discretionary, Mexico and wood. Staples, the other lumber, commercial real estate, lithium, blended commodities, marijuana, oil exploration down to 0.4, Brazil, finance, basic materials. Look how broadly these sectors of the market are lagging. So this was all tech today, and those narrow disruptors in finance. So don't get carried away on the upside enthusiasm. The top 10 by capitalization members of the S&P are what's dragging this whole market forward. The rest of it is hollow. Other underperformers: agriculture, energy, minus 0.5, I should say. Wheat and precious, VIX. And now let's look at some of our favorite symbols that are lagging, which now become possibles for exploitation. Cliff, Tex, U.S. Steel, John Deere, Devon Energy. That's a lot of our faves right there that had significant sell-offs in materials. So let's be ready to preserve profits, but also exploit short sides. All right. Quick look at some trades here. So this is the Aussie dollar on the 15s. I think you guys had more luck with that on the 5s yesterday. And one of the things that I'm noticing is that on the 15s, you've got to respect the 1, 2, 3s. Right here, because that's a 45-minute move, as opposed to waiting for the full PSAR flip. So this was a really good move. That move to this excursion and then the reversal back up, you need to take a look at what that is in terms of dollar costs for you, because you may find that little 1 bar move, which is 15 bars on the 1 minutes, that might be the move. And then you look at the size of some of these other moves, they're only lasting 30 minutes. So I'm actually thinking these, That 15-minute in the Aussie might need to get scaled down to 5. And then this would at least be a scratch instead of losing 0.7. And then this one, when it doesn't even penetrate as far as the other one and starts to reverse, you might just say, you know what? It failed to fail. So I'm just going to scratch it instead of eating that PSAR loss. And that offsets a 0.8. Then this one, again, like if this doesn't give you more, like if it starts reversing on the next bar already, maybe that's just a false start. And that's the way I would play it, especially on the 15-minute chart. Because you've given it 20 or 30 minutes for a trade. Because look at all these big moves. After those signals fire, they move hard. And if it doesn't move hard in your direction, done. You need to cut those. Otherwise, you're going to get chewed up. That's minus 2.4 just in that sequence. Now, on this one, where you have the RL30 rolling up, you have the sell-off, the consolidation, the positive slope of the RL30, and now the dragon's starting to roll up. That makes this an owl entry right in here. And that's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 entry that's taken out, that's leaving the river after a pinch. Get long here, and now you got 3 bars that moved in your favor and then started to roll over. You could cash that and win 1 instead of, and you had 2 shots at exiting in here. Like you might have even taken this one when this held support at the PSAR and started to roll up. On a 5-minute, that looks like a 1, 2, 3 entry, I'll bet you. And now, instead of losing 0.45, you have 2 chances of making bank. And then this one sells off and starts reversing again. I bet you on the 5 minutes, you end up getting long right there and you cash that as a win. So I think this would probably be a +4, not a -3. I think there's a 7-point swing in there by looking at the 5 minutes. Changed my mind. The Bitcoin on the 5s. Now, here's an example. Maybe these financial ones need to be the 5s instead of the 15s. This is a pretty good day at work. Early days, but still, there's 3.3. And even with some acknowledged costly mistakes, this peak that gets to Z2 and rolls over, I like this as a 1, 2, 3 exit. Remember, you got lower highs and lower lows. So this right here is the actual 1, 2, 3 exit. So that will save you a little bit of cash. And then on the PSAR flip on the 5s, you can afford to take that as the short instead of this short. Then when you get this move, your 1, 2, 3 exit is right here. So you get short here. You actually make bank. Instead of losing 0.7, you probably make 0.3. And then if you stop and reverse, you might actually make bank or at least scratch. Now you have, here's the purest Kata 2 you ever saw. Although, that turns out to be an amazing run. This is a great exit because you saw the breakout above Z3. Pretty good. But you actually had a Kata 2 here, a second entry here when it makes that higher low again, and then it goes beyond the Z3 and starts to roll over, cash it. This was a reasonable effort of recovery. Here is a 1, 2, 3 exit right here, and now short here instead of here. And now you get, and now a second position here, and now both of those pay off huge. And then that'll get paid. So This was 3.3. This was probably in the range of +6 to +7 with some of those ideas expressed. On your 5 minutes, if you see this rising triangle and a new breakout to a new high, I bet you could get a second position there. And then that would help you tighten up and exit here to make bank on the second position. Extra motivation. Luke, you're starting to bore us. That's good. This is production. Gap. Dude, get short here. Tight stop and then gap down and selling off. Come on, that's your minimum manageable risk box. And now you make the extra piece here instead of waiting for that. And then that's a good second position. Great exit. Good re-entry. That's probably a scratch. Yeah, that's all right. That's all right. That's all right. That's the one you got to crush right there. You did. Nice work. Nice work all the way through. Man. The extra 1 or 2 that you make there probably makes this 10 to 11, which is a 25% improvement in performance. That larger number should get your attention. That's why that matters. On trades, on documented trades, 1,304 to 1,318, he crushes this in a series for 11. He gets aligned with all the big moves and exploits them. And then he doesn't stick around long on the ones that aren't working. These probably all net out to nothing. And then he gets paid on the big ones in a big way. 11R. Nice. Nothing much to improve on there, except maybe right here. There's your first entry, and there's your exit for 3.8. Here's a Z3 pinch. You cleared the dragon. You cleared the RL10. It's a new high of the day. Dude, there it is. That would give you an extra +2, which would be a 22%. No, I'm sorry, 18% improvement. Take a look at the scaling on your charts. These things are so narrow that it's hard to see any signals. And that's going to get you nervous in the service. This is a good breakdown, however. Z3 pinch breakdown. And that's so close to a super pinch, or super pinch, that's the one you got to get. You're trading in the middle of the river. You're inside a sideways quiet channel, and it is grinding you for -1, -1, -1, -1. So you got -4 from trading inside Crocodile River. Wait for the breakout of the Z3 line, crush it. Good exit. Good effort. I think those are legit. That's a good one. That's a good follow through. I think that's premature. You've got a low point of the day and it's rising. The PSAR was never threatened, and you're getting short when it crosses the dragon, not even letting the PSAR fail. So that's not a pattern we recognize. and that's -1. So lighten up. And I think you want to expand this so that you can see those moves more easily. And this is a 5-minute. I'd invite you to look at a 3-minute to get some more actionable moves. This is the second half of the day, and this shows you the value of staying with it. Now, one of the things that you should know is when on days where the Fed is going to announce in the afternoon, that last hour before the Fed is nothing but chop, and that will save you -1 and -3. That will save you 4R of monkeying around. Now you get the breakout above Z3. There's your entry, and you get paid here, and here is your re-entry, and now there's a second position, and now that'll give you 6 instead of 2.8. So we saw a total of like -8 from trading inside the river, and then a possibility for another +4. So that's a 12-point swing on a day that was -3.5, could have been +9. XRP, really good work here. Here's the Z3 pinch. That's the move, 1, 2. Here is the RL30 rolling over. Now you got your SSC beauty. Start labeling your patterns that you think that you're trading so that you can see which patterns are paying off for you. You should consider a second position here because you had a Z3 pinch, which expanded to the upside. That's a Z3P breakout, and it crossed the RL270. So that's a new phase of market gains. Good way to get paid, and then pretty good reentry. I'd like to see you take about a 1, 2, 3 and get either the exit here or here and not wait that long. And then I think I like this 1, 2, 3 with a stop here. Now you get this entry instead of that one, and that makes this even better. That's a 1, 2, 3 exit for sure. Very well done. And it protected you against all this monkeying around. So that's 12. That might have been 15. Alcoa on the 1 minutes. Yeah, keep your running totals on here. So this is a reasonable effort, great scratch. I think that's a pretty good entry because you waited to see that break, and then you got the fill here, and you got paid. Good. Z3 pinch, collapsing dragon. Spring turns to winter as it leaves Z-2, or your collapsing dragon here in a Z3 pinch. You got to get short in here instead of here. That's your second position. So you get your first position here, and that gives you an extra 1R on that position. And now you make, let's see, probably another +2 here if you get that position. I'd like to see you get out right here on the 1, 2, 3, and it crosses the PSAR. Then the PSAR flip happens. Pretty good entry, better entry, good exit. Your reentry should be here because you have a low, a higher low, another higher low in the dragon. So you can get the SSC here. Then that makes this a win instead of a fractional loss. When this rejects the VWAP and starts to fail, I'd like to see you get the entry here on the PSAR flip instead of here. And then that pays off just a little bit better. Not much, but we're looking for precision because that could have failed. You never know. That's a good scratch. That's a good scratch. That's a good shot. So pretty good all the way across the board. Alcoa, the second round, some grinding going on in here, maybe a little over trading. And part of that is that, you're using really strict, tight stops. I don't mind that. This was coming into same note I made before. This is Fed time. We should not be, we got to stop trading right around here. Then you can play this breakout. When that doesn't fail further, you can get long here, and then you'll get paid in here. Reasonable effort to the downside. This should be a stop and reverse because now look, everything is up. Look at the RL270. Now you got a low, a higher low, a higher low. That's your SSC all day. And, a COTA 2 all day, COTA 2, COTA 2. So you're about 3 bars late on each one of those. And then scratch them instead of losing minus 0.84. And then this 0.88 would be about 1.2 when you enter here instead of there. Welcome back, Joe Greco. Notice the importance of the understanding the range stat. Maximum, reasonable, intraday, move. The maximum reasonable intraday move in either direction. It's the average plus 1 frog box. The 30-day average plus 1 frog box is the maximum reasonable intraday move. Great shot. There's 2R. And now he's ready for the FOMC. It does a fake 1, go 2. He decides not to chase, but I wouldn't mind if you tried that and got paid, and tried that and got paid, and and scratched. But now here's the move. Emerging dragon and exits at the range stat move off the low. So he finds the low of the day, projects a range stat to the upside and says, I got the maximum reasonable intraday move and I'm holding 4 plus 2. I got plus 6. Welcome back, day 1. Keep doing that. IWM, this is on the 2 minute. Let's see here. Yeah, 2 minute. Good job not trading during the chop prior to the Fed. Fake 1, go 2, same thing. Z3 pinch excursion. You can get paid in here, but I like this breakdown and stop. I like this stop and reverse. Yeah, you identified the same place that I would like to get out or to get a second position in when it takes out the peak of the RL10. That's how you do it. Don't wait. Be a sniper. Good stuff. Don't beat yourself up on that one. That's not a bad entry. That's a good exit. That's a good re-entry. And you got paid. If you don't want that R, I'll take it. Like, that's a full R. If you don't want that R, I'll take it all day. Nice work. Guess you're getting your money's worth today. Come on. Bullish volatile, broadly overbought. Still cautionary tales, but notice the little recovery being supported now by the risk Z in the spring. Cautiously optimistic, ready to exploit upside moves. And we saw that today. Just a couple dojis because of the large move. Boeing has yet to follow through, and Intel hasn't followed through. But nice moves in Pfizer and United Health, Cisco and Apple in Techland. Only one doji today in finance. Still some reasonable auto framers. These are the ones that are lagging. I would tell you, I would rather play the momentum plays that are already going than waiting for these to play catch up. You know, Latin America, Brazil. This is a time when I would be playing the momentum play and not the value play. Lots of things rolled over out of the winter and back into the spring. There's Apple, very strong in the summer. Procter, strong in the summer. United Health was strong today, summer. Tech was extremely strong today, summer. Cisco, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson. The S&P and tech. And that's everything we want to look at. Let's get this published and posted. Be ready for tomorrow. Big follow through day tomorrow. Well done, fellas.